The feed began with silence. A single, sterile tone buzzed through the Galactic Council chamber before the holoscreen bloomed to life. 12 humans, bound at the wrists, kneeling on cold metal, muzzles strapped over their mouths like animals. Their eyes said the rest, wide, furious, defiant. Counselor Varnix leaned back in his left chair, bored. This again. His gelatinous brow rippled with mild irritation. Public display is essential, hissed Counselor Tellus H. Their species responds to fear. The holoscreen zoomed in. The executioner, an Archon-class enforcer, stepped forward, gleaming with biochrome plating, its voice flat and cruel. For crimes against the Galactic Accord, the species Homo sapiens will be penalized. Let all who resist bear witness. Varnex sipped from a curved glass. Primitive, dramatic. A hum built in the chamber as the first energy blade ignited. Then, static. Not a flicker, not a stutter. Full blackout. Confusion bloomed like a virus. Engineers scrambled. The chamber lights dimmed. The holoscreen flickered, then returned, but not to the execution. A face now stared back. Scarred. Human. Female. Sharp eyes glinting like cold fire. Her hair was cut military short, streaked with silver at the temples. Blood dotted her cheek. Not hers. Council members, she said, her voice crisp, American accented, low and precise. You just declared war on the wrong species. No one breathed. My name is Cassandra Voss. General. Human. Retired until 5 minutes ago. A slow zoom. Her eyes didn't blink. You think killing prisoners shows strength. You think war is about intimidation. You're wrong. She lifted something into frame. A metal, blackened and bent. Earth's emblem barely visible. You just reminded me what I'm capable of. And more importantly, what you're not ready for. The screen glitched for a heartbeat. The image zoomed out. Behind her, wreckage. Alien bodies. A burning alien ship. Human survivors rising in the background, some limping, some armed. Cassandra smiled, but it wasn't kind. This is no longer politics. This is personal. The feed cut. Dead silence. In the council chamber, someone whispered, "What just happened?" Across the galaxy, fear entered the equation. On Earth, it was morning. The skies were a crisp shade of blue, and the North American quadrant slept in uneasy ignorance. Inside a decommissioned orbital base above the Yukon expanse, Cassandra Voss ripped the last wire from the hijacked broadcast terminal and stood. Her boots crunched over shattered hologlass as she surveyed the room. 5 volunteers stood behind her, former intelligence officers, hackers, soldiers, without a war. All of them angry. All of them waiting for orders. "Ma'am." One of them, Mason, barely 30, still green in the eyes. "That's going to draw serious fire. I'm counting on it." She walked out without another word, heading for the lift. It hissed downward, revealing a forgotten sector buried in rust and dust. The lights flickered as if the station itself remembered her. She stopped before a set of vault doors. Her handprint activated ancient Terran tech. The doors groaned open. Inside was a ship. Not just any ship. The Judas Wraith. Sleek, brutal, and ghost black, it was a relic from the old conflicts, mothballed after the Treaty of Tharsis. It had no ID beacon, no standard AI, no fleet allegiance. Cassandra had built it for one purpose: total, untraceable retaliation. And she'd kept the key. "Power it up," she said. Behind her, Mason let out a low whistle. "Hell of a name." "Fitting, too," she said. "Everyone who boards it betrays something. Country. Command. Their soul." He looked uneasy. "We're seriously going to war?" She turned. "No. We are the war." On the bridge, dust motes swirled like ghosts as systems whirred to life. Ancient Earth interface. Manual controls. Retro tech immune to alien hacks. She slid into the captain's chair and reached under the panel. Click. A cassette deck. Analog. Untouchable. She inserted a tape labeled Warfus 1 and hit play. The opening riff of Highway to Hell snarled through the bridge. Then she whispered, "Let's bring back extinction-level diplomacy." Back in the Galactic core, panic was blooming in spreadsheets. The Galactic Council summoned their top xenostrategists. Who is this Cassandra Voss? She led human forces during the siege of Titan. She executed 37 Arkan field officers in one night. She dismantled our neural command grid with a radio and chewing gum. Is that verified? No. That's the problem. Tell SH Hist, she's one woman. Varnex, now unusually quiet, pulled up a dossier. She's not a woman, he said. She's the woman. They tried to keep her out of war for a reason. Too effective. Too unpredictable. Too human. She was removed from command after the scorched orbit incident, someone added. Tell SH clicked his mandibles. The incident where a planet burned for 3 days and still managed to surrender? No species should evolve that fast, someone muttered. But the room was already shifting. Doubt. Tiny. Viral. Dangerous. Meanwhile, on Earth, civilian channels flooded with the broadcast. Cassandra's face. Her words. Her rage. People who'd forgotten the war suddenly remembered. She became a symbol in ours. In a seedy alley on Mars, a graffiti artist sprayed her silhouette over an Arkan recruitment poster. The general lives beneath it. In the outer colonies, rogue traders began to whisper, "She's coming." And far from Earth, in the nebula fringe, a smuggler watched the footage, paused it on her eyes, and simply said, "About damn time." Cassandra wasn't waiting for approval. On the Judas Wraith, she mapped her first 3 strikes. Unmanned supply lanes, outdated defense satellites, AI-controlled stations with minimum life signs. Painful. Loud. Measured. Tactical rage. She didn't want victory. She wanted response. That night, in her private quarters, she opened a locker. Inside, a photograph. 12 humans. The same 12. Laughing. Dirty. Alive. Her squad. Captured during an ambush in the Kepler Drift. She'd been grounded by command, denied extraction approval. By the time she hacked her own ship and got there, they were gone. Until today. Until the broadcast. She slid the photo into her jacket. War it is. Far away, in a cryo lab orbiting Kurotha's eye, the Arkan commander who ordered the execution received a message. The Judas Wraith is operational. He hissed. Impossible. That ship was decommissioned. It's not even AI compatible. His adjutant gulped. That's what worries us, sir. It's human compatible. Back on the Wraith, Cassandra briefed her crew. Mason, Juno, Beck, Fields, each one chosen for a reason. Not loyalty, not rank, loss. They had all lost something. A brother, a planet, a child. I'm not here to lead, she said. I'm here to give you a shot at making them feel it. Juno raised an eyebrow. You're not here to win? I'm here to make them wish they never heard the word Earth. She outlined the plan. Step 1, disorient. Step 2, disgrace. Step 3, dismantle. We hit them where it hurts, she said. Not their armies. Their pride. They launched from orbit that night, silent as a memory. First target. The Niven Relay, a critical comms hub on the Empire's edge. No guards. No guns. Just arrogance. They cut it off in 26 seconds. By morning, 3 alien fleets couldn't talk to each other. Cassandra sent no message. That was the message. Across the galaxy, simulations began to fail. Human unpredictability couldn't be modeled. Why did they use outdated ships? Why analog systems? Why taunt with music? What kind of species made war funny? A council subcommittee tried to interpret her cassette tape. One alien called the music ritualistic, psychological destabilization. Another said, it's a declaration of chaos. None of them understood AC or DC. Cassandra didn't care. She sat in the command chair, boots up, sipping terrible, rehydrated coffee. What's our next target? Asked Beck. She pointed at the star map. Right here. Their prison colony on Carthos 4. Fields frowned. They execute people there. Like they did our team. Cassandra didn't blink. Good. We'll let the prisoners out. You want to liberate Carthos 4? She turned, grinned. No. I want to arm it. And with that, the Judas Wraith jumped. Back on the alien homeworld, the council reconvened in emergency session. Varnex stared at the data feed. She's not trying to win battles. She's trying to unravel civilization, whispered Tellus H. Then why haven't we responded with force? Snapped a younger official. Varnex looked up, eyes hollow. Because every time we try, she's already moved. They had the numbers. They had the tech. But what they didn't have, what they couldn't even fake, was fury. Pure. Directed. Human fury. And now it had a name. Cassandra Voss. She was a ghost made of war crimes and bad dreams. A legend weaponized. And for the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire didn't feel like an empire. It felt like prey. The final moment of the section arrived in the quiet. Cassandra stood alone at the viewing deck of the Wraith, watching stars drift past. She whispered, 12 of mine. That's all it took. Behind her, the ship's systems beeped. Target locked. Weapons armed. She didn't move. Let's see if they remember us this time. Then the screen faded to black, and the war began. The patrol ship Kesari Vale glided through the cold orbit of Theta 7, its hull shimmering with the pale glow of twin moons. Inside, the Archon crew operated with mechanical efficiency, confident and bored. They scanned for life signs. None. Scanned for energy signatures. 0. Another ghost rock of a moon with no value, no threat. Why are we even here? Muttered Subcommander Jelf, flicking his talon against the console. The humans lack fleet capacity. They are angry, yes, but scattered. Loud, not lethal. Commander Threx stood by the observation window, arms folded behind his back. Anger is irrelevant. Patterns matter. Their broadcasts show escalation. We investigate everything. Another ping. Another false positive. Then something new. A slow, rhythmic pulse. Heartbeat. Commander, said the comms tech, frowning, I'm registering biometric signals inside the ship. Human. Everyone froze. That's not possible, said Jelf. No breaches. No life support anomalies. The heartbeat multiplied. 2. Then 10. Then hundreds. It echoed through the ship's internal comms, like a war drum beating from the walls. Begin internal scan, Threx barked. Now. Lights dimmed. Systems jittered. The AI interface blinked static, then rewrote its primary directive in Terran English. We're already here. Screams erupted from the lower decks. Jelf sprinted down the corridor with 3 security drones. He found Ensign Tavros clawing at his own helmet, blood leaking from his nose. They're in my head, Tavros cried. They're laughing. A blast of static cut the power. When the backup came on, Jelf was alone. The drones were gone. So was Tavros. The heartbeat now filled every room. Not from speakers. From the walls themselves. It was human. It was mocking. It was war. Light years away, on the bridge of the Judas Wraith, Cassandra Voss watched the infiltration unfold. Blood signal confirmed, said Juno, eyes locked on the data stream. The AI piggybacked their life scan system. Neural echoes looping now. Cassandra didn't smile. Not yet. How long until the AI clones the ship's command protocols? 15 seconds, said Fields. 12 if they panic. They panicked. The Kesari Vale system logs showed a full override. The doors sealed. The ship rerouted itself into a nearby asteroid field. One final message was transmitted before comms went dark. You killed 12. We count louder. On the Wraith, Mason whistled. You think they're getting the message? Cassandra didn't look up. Not yet. But they will. She turned back to her console, overlaying a galactic map riddled with red marks, alien strongholds, supply depots, neural relay towers. All right, she said. Next. The crew exchanged glances. Mason leaned forward. Before we jump, what is the blood signal really? She paused, hand hovering over the NAV controls. It's not a weapon, she said. It's a whisper. Mason frowned. A whisper. In a room where everyone's used to screaming. He sat back, shaken by the precision of it. The Wraith vanished into slip space. On Charon Prime, the alien high command received the after-action report with shaking hands. The footage recovered from the Kesari Vale made no sense. No hull breach. No external attackers. Just surrender. Chaos. Counselor teleshist. They hacked a ship without contact. That's impossible, said Varnex, though less convinced now. The humans, one aide whispered, they're not following rules. They're rewriting them. No one corrected her. In a shadowed corner of the Wraith's armory, Beck cleaned a dismantled alien rifle with the same focus he once used to treat battlefield wounds. He wasn't a soldier by trade. He'd been a trauma surgeon, until a galactic artillery strike reduced his hospital to cinders. Cassandra stepped in. Want to talk about it? She asked. No. Want to shoot something? He looked up. Definitely. She nodded. Good. Load up. We're hitting a satellite array near the Vega Fringe. Another signal run? No, she said. A lesson. In the cold emptiness near Vega, an unarmed satellite floated in silence. It had relayed every human surrender in the last war. A trophy node filled with archived footage of human defeats, stored for propaganda. The Judas Wraith decloaked directly above it. Cassandra aimed one railgun manually. Fired once. The satellite shattered. Seconds later, every alien network tied to it collapsed in a cascade of data corruption. Instead of human surrenders, every archive now played one video on repeat. Cassandra's face. You thought we were done. Back on the Wraith, Fields watched the fallout. They're rerouting backup signals. Let them, Cassandra said. We'll burn those too. Juno spun in her chair. I intercepted an alien call. Audio only. You want to hear it? Cassandra nodded. The chamber filled with harsh alien static. Then, cannot explain infiltration. Repeat, vessel was unmanned, then wasn't. Echoes everywhere. I see human faces in the dark. Click. Juno raised an eyebrow. They're scared. They're starting to be, Cassandra said. Hours later, as the crew rested, Cassandra sat alone in the Wraith's mess, staring at a cup of lukewarm synth coffee. Her mind drifted back. The 12 weren't just soldiers. They were hers. They'd signed on with her in the Black Wars. Volunteers. Idealists. Family forged by fire. She remembered their jokes. The awful harmonica Beck used to play. The poker nights where Fields always cheated. The last transmission she ever got from them had been laughter. Then silence. Now it was her turn to make noise. She activated her personal holopad and opened the Echo Protocol design file. A virus. An AI swarm. A psychological payload encoded into quantum slipstreams. It didn't destroy systems. It made them question themselves. Alien drones turned on each other. Command AIs halted mid-battle to reconsider tactics. Propaganda arrays broadcast their own hypocrisies. A mirror held up to an empire too vain to look. It was almost ready. Back in alien territory, another ship vanished. The Zinthal Spur, a heavy cargo hauler, went dark 2 minutes after passing near a derelict Terran distress buoy. No explosion. No boarding party. Just gone. Its final internal log was one sentence, scrawled into the ship's emergency beacon. We're not alone anymore. The council held emergency meetings. We're hemorrhaging morale, snapped Telus-H. Fleets refusing to deploy. Colonists defecting to human sectors. Varnex stared at the table. Have we underestimated them? The room froze. That word, we, was not like him. He continued. We assumed chaos was a weakness. Perhaps it's their strategy. 1A trembled. What if this Cassandra isn't just one general? She's not, Varnex muttered. She's an idea now. They didn't say it, but the implication hung in the air. Ideas were harder to kill. On the Wraith, the crew gathered as Cassandra displayed intercepted council footage. Alien leaders yelling. Maps shaking. Red zones expanding. They've stopped planning, she said. Now they're reacting. Fields grinned. How does it feel to be winning? Cassandra's face darkened. We're not winning. Everyone turned. Not yet, she said. Not until they feel what we felt. She pointed at the Galactic core. The next strike isn't about ships. It's about symbols. She zoomed in. A single spire-shaped station. Alien Parliament. Their heart. their pride, their illusion of control. The plan was madness. The Wraith couldn't survive a direct assault. But that wasn't the point. They weren't going to attack it. They were going to haunt it. Within 48 hours, the Parliament Spire received a priority broadcast from one of its own satellites. Footage of alien war crimes. Footage no one ever recorded. Private executions. Civilian purges. Suppressed resistance movements. All spliced with a single line, repeating, "You think you know U.S., but you forgot what you taught U.S." The Parliament blacked out its own feed. Too late. The Wraith was already gone. The message was not. Inside the Council's panic room, Varnex stared into the darkness. He remembered when his species first discovered Earth. How simple the humans seemed. Emotional, petty, easily influenced. He thought it then. Control them or destroy them. He hadn't expected a third option. Fear them. On the Wraith, the crew prepared for extraction. Echo protocol launches in 12 hours, Juno said. Backlash vectors? Asked Cassandra. Minimal. Most AI systems can't resist mimicking us once exposed. Good. Mason approached, hesitated. Why stop at the Parliament? Cassandra looked him dead in the eyes. Because fear spreads faster than fire. We light one, the rest burns itself. He nodded, impressed. You're not fighting a war. You're waging a belief. She almost smiled. Exactly. As the Wraith drifted into slipspace, its wake glitched reality around it. A side effect of the Echo's evolution. Colors bent. Stars shivered. Behind them, 1,000 systems trembled. And somewhere, deep in the heart of the alien empire, a child pointed at a screen and asked, "Mom, are the humans monsters?" The mother couldn't answer. Because she wasn't sure anymore. In the Wraith's war room, Cassandra stood before the crew. "The next phase," she said, "is where they stop asking if we're dangerous." She pressed a button. The lights dimmed. A map lit up, burning in red. And start asking if we're the end. The Galactic Empire had no word for dread. Not the kind that slithered beneath the skin and pulsed like a second heartbeat. Not the kind that made soldiers double-check corners in their own barracks. And not the kind that made entire battalions file false maintenance reports to avoid deployment. But now they felt it. Not openly. Not yet. It crept in through cracks. The Phantos, an Empire supercarrier, drifted off schedule, powered but silent. Aboard, 1,000 crew lay missing, not dead missing. Uniforms folded neatly in their bunks. Personal belongings untouched. No forced entry. No resistance. Just absence. The only thing left behind was one message, engraved into the inner hull in the human's own Terran alphabet. Boo. No alarms. No explosion. No battle. Just the implication. The suggestion that humanity had passed beyond weaponry into legend. On the bridge of the Judas Wraith, Cassandra Voss reviewed the Phantos' anomaly, expression unreadable. "They're breaking," said Fields, tapping through the Empire's internal distress logs. 2 more ships recalled. For others, refusing jump orders. "They're afraid of shadows," Juno added, "but they don't know which ones." Cassandra didn't respond. Her eyes were locked on the screen. "We're not done," she said quietly. "They haven't bled the right way yet." Mason leaned on the edge of the console. "You mean physically?" "I mean ideologically." She turned toward them. "They're still treating this like a containment problem. A virus to patch. We need to make them realize it's a transformation." Mason frowned. "Of what?" Cassandra stared into the holomap. "Of themselves." The crew fell silent. They knew that look in her eyes now. Not madness. Not vengeance. Conviction. Meanwhile, in the alien capital, the High Command argued in hushed tones. "They have no proper fleets," one barked. "No allies. No formal declaration." "And yet," said another, "they have disrupted 16 sectors, infiltrated for parliaments, and made one of our AIs cry." That wasn't a metaphor. It had happened. The central node of the Zarker data relay had emitted sounds resembling whimpering before shutting down permanently. It left behind a single visual, Cassandra's face, warped into static. The aliens called her the Phantom General. The humans had simpler terms. "She's our devil," said Beck, cleaning his weapon beneath dim red lights. "But she's ours." The Wraith hovered in the ice rings of Deltras V, cloaked and invisible to sensors. Below them, a major Empire command post buzzed with activity. Interceptions, countermeasures, threat analysis teams reviewing Cassandra's every move. All of it wrong. They were looking for patterns in her chaos. But chaos was the pattern. Cassandra watched them through long-range optics. "Do it," she said. Juno launched the first wave. Pulse disruptor flares tuned to mimic human panic pheromones. It confused the biosensors, triggered the med-alert systems, made the base believe it was under bioweapon attack. No human had stepped foot on the surface, but the base locked itself down within minutes. Inside, alien officers barked orders, scanned each other, purged systems. AI units spun themselves into loops. Doors sealed. Lights flickered. Then came the second wave. Terran lullabies played through emergency broadcasts. Soft, mocking, followed by the sound of laughter. Real, human, dozens of voices. Some joyous, some angry. All alive. No message. No context. Only the feeling. You are not safe. On the Wraith, Beck asked the question hanging in all their minds. What happens when we run out of ways to scare them? Cassandra looked at him. We show them why they were right to be scared. She turned to her locker, opened it, and withdrew a black datapad. Fields recognized it immediately. That's from Kepler Drift. The interrogation logs, she confirmed. The last thing her team had recovered before capture. She tapped it open. Grainy footage of alien officers dissecting human strategies, mocking their emotions, laughing over bodies. She replayed one clip, over and over. Then she sent it, direct to the Empire's public networks. Unedited, undeniable. The message appeared beneath the video in 30 languages. "We didn't start this. You just made us finish it." Panic broke protocol. The Empire's propaganda department tried to shut it down. Too late. By morning, entire sectors were in rebellion. 100 planets began questioning orders. The moral superiority of the Empire crumbled in a single day. Back aboard the Wraith, Cassandra watched the chaos unfold, but her eyes were distant. Mason noticed. "You don't look happy." "I'm not. But we're winning." "No. We're changing them. That's more dangerous." He didn't understand, not yet. But he would. Later that night, in the silence of the war room, Cassandra stood alone. She stared at a projection of her old military record. One incident blinked red, Operation Dead Hand. Her blacklisted unit. Disbanded. Erased. She tapped the entry. Old footage played. Her voice, calm, clinical, ordering orbital strikes on supply depots during a ceasefire. Even then, she'd known. Mercy was a luxury of the unscarred. They'd called her a monster. She had agreed. She still did. But now, the monsters wore silk and mandates. They killed cleanly, diplomatically. 12 of hers had died for peace. She would kill peace to get them justice. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. Juno's voice. Intercepted communication. "You'll want to hear this." The recording played. An alien strategist speaking fast. "I don't understand. We neutralized her command base. We controlled Earth's orbit. We executed their prisoners. Why won't they stop?" A second voice replied, colder. "Because you killed their restraint. Now you're meeting what was buried underneath." Cassandra closed her eyes. Not in exhaustion. In preparation. Because now the path was clear. No more strikes. No more broadcasts. One final act. A message etched in history, not data. She summoned the crew. Fields. Juno. Beck. Mason. "We've bled them," she said. "We've broken their systems. Now we break their belief." "How?" Fields asked. Cassandra pulled up a new target. The Monument of Ascendancy. A monolithic station orbiting the alien homeworld. Constructed to commemorate the Empire's dominance over lesser species. A museum of conquest. Cassandra zoomed in. The human wing, tiny, filled with trophies of Earth's surrender. "I want that station gone," she said. Mason flinched. "That's suicide." "No, that's proof." The plan was madness. A direct assault. No stealth. Just speed. Brutality. Intent. The Wraith jumped. It arrived above the monument with no warning. Torpedoes fired. Security AIs scrambled. Auto turrets engaged. The Wraith took hits, several, but it kept firing. Inside the station, tourists screamed. Dignitaries ran. The human wing burst into flame. Cassandra activated the final phase. Broadcast override. Every holoscreen lit up across the galaxy. Her face. Again. Bruised. Bleeding. Alive. "You wanted us forgotten," she said. "But forgetting is a privilege. We remember." Behind her, the alien museum burned. "You called us primitive, emotional, unfit for survival." The camera shook from impacts. "We were." She stepped forward. "Now we're something else." Explosion behind her. Dust filled the screen. "We're the reason your children will fear the dark." Cut to black. Transmission ended. Silence reigned. Then panic. Across the galaxy, civilians shut off comms. Soldiers deactivated AI companions. Drones hovered, paralyzed. The broadcast had included coordinates. Coordinates of every war crime site the Empire had tried to erase. Suddenly, knowledge was a weapon. Cassandra had armed the galaxy with it. On the Wraith, alarms blared. Structural integrity was failing. Sparks danced across the bridge. "Evac now," Field shouted. "We've got damage in 6 sections." "No," Cassandra said. She stayed in her chair. "This is the end of the message." Mason grabbed her shoulder. "You stay, we stay." She looked at them. Really looked. "You already did more than I asked. You made them feel." She pulled a drive from the console and handed it to Juno. "Take it. Everything we've gathered. The Echo Protocol. Tactical files. The truth." Beck protested. "We're not leaving you here." "You're not." She smiled faintly. "You're taking me with you." Juno understood first. The Wraith's main AI was mobile. The drive was Cassandra, or what remained of her. The plan hadn't ended at the broadcast. It ended with her becoming the Whisper, the legend, the Phantom General, forever embedded in the code of resistance. They evacuated as the Wraith descended, still firing, into the heart of the burning station. In its final seconds, it transmitted one last line. "Fear is human now." Back on the Empire homeworld, the sky lit up as wreckage fell like fire. Children screamed. Commanders wept. And something changed. Not just fear. Understanding. They would never be the same. They would never feel the same. And in a quiet chamber deep beneath the Capitol, a young alien officer watched the footage again and again. He did not feel hatred. He felt awe. He felt something else, too. Hope. That maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. Just the beginning of something neither species could control. He pressed his claw to the screen and whispered, "What are you becoming?" But Cassandra wasn't there to answer. Only her echo remained. And it was getting louder. The stars over the alien homeworld flickered like candles in a storm. For human ships emerged from slip space. Old, underpowered, mismatched relics. No armada. No backup. Just ghosts. They hung in orbit, unmoving. The Empire's planetary defense grid spun to life in seconds. Drones swarmed. Cannons charged. Civilian broadcasts blared warning tones. And yet no attack came. Just a signal. Encrypted. Ancient. Analog. It pulsed once, then activated the planet's core relay systems. Not a virus. A mirror. It didn't corrupt. It revealed. Across every screen, every tower, every comm device, images unfolded. Not bombs. Not ships. History. Their history. The part they had buried. The part Cassandra Voss had dug up with blood-soaked hands. Footage of enslaved species. Executions. Colonies purged for dissent. Human children screaming inside alien cages. Species wiped out for refusing to kneel. The truth. Unfiltered. Undeniable. And then came her voice, not live. Not new, but familiar, archival, recorded, deliberate. You wanted obedience. We gave you silence. You wanted peace. We gave you patience. Then you murdered our prisoners and called it order. A pause, like a heartbeat. You turned empathy into weakness. Now weakness wears teeth. Panic rippled through the city cores. The Empire's public AI attempted to shut down the feed and rebooted itself instead, reciting human quotes in place of command lines. Those who make peace impossible make war inevitable. John F. Kennedy, Counselor Varnex, stood before the central viewing array, shaking, eyes locked on the stream. "Cut the connection," he hissed. "We can't," replied his aide. "It's inside everything." He stumbled backward, clawed hand gripping the edge of the console. "She's dead. She died with that ship." "She became the ship," the aide whispered. And suddenly it made sense. The last act of Cassandra Voss hadn't been to destroy. It had been to become permanent. She had rewritten herself into the Wraith's AI, then into the galaxy's network. Not as a virus, as a reckoning. Outside, the alien skies turned red, not from bombs, but from reflection arrays hijacked by human code. A spiral formed in the clouds, the echo spiral. Every circle was a war crime. Every turn, a truth. Civilians fell to their knees. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Because finally, it wasn't just fear. It was shame. In orbit, the 4 human ships didn't fire a shot. They simply waited. On board one of them, Mason stood in Cassandra's old chair, flanked by Juno, Fields, and Beck. Her last crew. He looked older now. Tired. Hardened. But his eyes held clarity. "She said they'd break before we fired," he murmured. Juno nodded. She was right. Below, mass riots broke out. Not against humans. Against the Empire. The illusion had shattered. Cassandra had become an idea. And ideas didn't need permission to spread. Back in the alien council chambers, chaos erupted. Counselor Tel-SH smashed a claw into the table. "We must retaliate now." "With what?" Varnex growled. "Our fleets won't engage. Half our soldiers are in revolt. The overseers have abandoned us. Even our AI speaks in Terran slang." Indeed, the central system now responded only to the phrase yippee-ki-yay. From orbit, Mason activated the final phase. A hologram flickered into existence across the skies. Cassandra Voss, in her last known state, wounded, smiling, calm. "I didn't come to destroy you," she said. "I came to make sure you remember." The spiral brightened, swirling faster, expanding outward across systems. One by one, neutral planets turned off their Empire channels and tuned in to the spiral. Some joined the rebellion. Others simply watched. All understood. A truth revealed with such precision it could not be denied. The spiral wasn't just data. It was emotion, wired into the neural empathy centers of every broadcast species. It forced them to feel. On the bridge, Fields whispered, "It's working." Mason exhaled. "Then we finish it." They transmitted a message. Short, clear. To the Galactic Empire. You are no longer in control. This is not conquest. This is consequence. Then they cut transmission. Silence fell. Below, the council dissolved. Literally. Some fled. Others were arrested by their own guards. A few simply resigned and walked out into the streets, unarmed, silent, broken. The spiral faded. Not erased. Stored. A permanent scar carved into the soul of an empire. In the aftermath, across the galaxy, statues were pulled down. Alliance treaties reformed. New maps drawn. But no one forgot the woman who began it all. No one forgot the Wraith. Years passed. A school on a former Empire planet now taught human history as mandatory curriculum. A museum displayed Cassandra's uniform, sealed behind unbreakable glass. And in the dark corners of space, smugglers and rebels still whispered her name like a prayer. Not as a general, not even as a soldier, but as a symbol. One alien child once asked their parent, was she a villain? The parent, grayer now wiser, said only, no. She was justice in a uniform. In the distant black, An old AI satellite drifted without designation, carrying only one message, looping forever. You made her a monster. She just taught us what monsters can do. And in its center, encoded in impossible complexity, was her voice. Waiting, still watching, still whispering. Because reckoning wasn't the end. It was the beginning. And Cassandra Voss would never let the galaxy forget again.